Welcome back. It's time to build our RoboFriends app. To get started, well, let's open up our terminal. We should be comfortable with it by now. For this section, I really recommend coding along and following along the processes because you will learn a lot better by actually doing this yourself. And like I promised, it's fairly easy and we'll have a beautiful app at the end of it. But for those that enjoy just watching and working afterwards, I will provide the final RoboFriends app files for you at the end of this section. Okay, so we have nothing yet. We're in the desktop. We need to actually create a project folder. And we do need to install React. Now, if you remember in NPM, we could install React and have it as part of our packages in package.json. But there's a tool, again, because React apps are so common, there's a tool that allows us to right away create a React app with all our files already put into place. It's called Create React App. This tool is a global package that you want to install from NPM, and it creates a starter project that contains Webpack. It contains Babel, so we can use the latest JavaScript features. It contains linting and debugging that we haven't really looked at yet. It creates all this infrastructure for you, so right away you can start writing the app. And it's a very good tool that a lot of people use, so we're going to install Create React App. If you remember, we simply do npm install -g, and this will give us Create React App. Again, if you get these errors, always remember to do sudo. Now that we have Create React App, we simply say Create React App and the name of our app. In our case, we'll call it RoboFriends. You see that? It's installing a bunch of things that we need. It looks like it's a success. Created RoboFriends at my directory. And it even gives you some good commands. npm start, npm run build, npm test, npm run eject. But we'll get to that later. Let's see what we have in our desktop folder. We have RoboFriends. That's already been created for us. Okay, let's cd into that. And now if I do ls, looks like we have a ton of folders and files, such as package.json, that were already created for us, and node modules. How awesome is that? It already installs React and all the dependencies that we need. As a matter of fact, if we go to the desktop, we see the folder here. So let's drag this to Sublime Text, open it up, and I'm going to change the screens around just so we can see both of these at the same time. Perfect. Now, before I show you what's in the folder, we see that if we go to package.json, we see the dependencies. We have React, we have something called React DOM, and React scripts. And we also have a bunch of scripts that they've already created for us. We have start, build, test, and eject. Let's start off with start because, well, it looks like start reads the React scripts and starts up our server. So I'm going to say npm start. Look at that. We have on our local host a sample React app. So everything's working. We didn't have to do anything except for run just 2 commands, really. Very cool. Okay, let's see what Create React App has created for us. We have a README, which is just information that, if you remember, when we put it on GitHub, this will display in the project folder. We have package.json, which, again, makes sense. I'll explain to you what the dependencies mean in the next video. But we see that scripts were provided for, and all of them use React scripts. Now, React scripts is what makes Create React App so awesome. Instead of us installing things like Webpack and Babel, do you remember how much setup we had to do to get ES6 JavaScript working? And then we also use Browserify to bundle the JavaScript files. Well, React Scripts does everything for you, and it uses the latest and greatest that we don't need to worry about any of it. So it allows for people to build really, really fast apps. And you can use the eject if you end up wanting to customize the React scripts and go on your own. So as your project gets bigger and bigger, you can always eject and customize your app. It is the best way to start a React project. It's managed by the Facebook team, and it is really, really good. Okay, we also see that there's package lock.json file. And this is a file that automatically is generated by package.json. It makes sure that the version numbers of your dependencies are locked in so that if I give this project to anybody else anywhere around the world, we make sure that the versions are correct so that it works 100% of the time. We also have something called git ignore, and it has a dot in front of it. It's actually called a dot file. And before we run git and push this project on GitHub, well, it checks this file, and if it sees anything in here that it shouldn't include, it automatically says ignore these files. So remember how I said node modules, we don't want to push that to a repo because, well, we have package.json and it creates unnecessary work and weight to push our project. Well, again, we don't care about node modules folder. We don't care about the coverage folder, which again is about testing. We don't need to cover that. And we also don't care about the build folders and a couple of other ones. It just automatically generates this for us. We don't need to touch it. We then have, well, obviously our node modules, and you can see over here, there's a ton of them that, again, Create React App just builds for us automatically. We also have a public folder, and here, everything should be familiar. We have index.html. We have something called manifest.json. It's a new feature that allows people to download a shortcut to your website and have an icon on their desktop. But again, we don't need to worry about it. And then we have favicon.ico, which is the little icon that shows up at the top over here. And you can change that with whatever .ico file you want. And there's online tools to generate these for you. Again, something that we don't need to worry about. And finally, we have the src folder, that is the source folder. This is where all the magic React happens. If you look at index.js, that is the main script file, we're doing a few imports, which you remember, we're just importing different scripts. And we're just simply saying this new syntax that we've never seen before. React DOM, render, app, document, get element by ID. Okay, we know this. So we're grabbing an element of ID root, and we're saying React DOM render app. If we go to index.html file, we see here, and they have really nice comments that you can read, we see that within the body, there is just one div. This no-script file is in case a browser isn't using JavaScript. Again, we don't need to worry about that. It just comes with default because it's good practice. But in the body, we just have this div with ID root and nothing else. Yet, when we go to our app, we see that, well, there's definitely something there. There's at least text there and at least a logo there. So going back here, without knowing any React, we can say that, okay, we're grabbing this ID root in index.js file, and we're saying we want to render this app component. And this is what we call JSX syntax, which we'll get into later. This app is React's way of saying this is a React component, and I want you to render on the screen in the body this. So I can actually change this to, well, we can say h1 hello world. Oop, hello world h1. And now if I save this, you'll notice that React automatically compiles this for us so I don't have to refresh. And look at that. On our website, we have hello world. Very cool. Now, again, another great thing about Create React App, it also gives you warnings. It says app is defined but never used. So if I go over here, yeah, I'm importing app, but I'm never using it. So we also get really, really good advice in our terminal of how we can improve the app. Okay, the final thing I want to show you before we get into the next section, we actually start digging into the code. As you can see, the coloring is kind of off, and that's because Sublime Text doesn't really understand what's going on here. If we change this to Babel JavaScript, there you go. We get the nice syntax and everything looks fine. Perfect. We have our app set up. I want you to change the tag over here to hello world for now, just to make sure that everything is working. But for now, you have a setup. In the next video, we're going to go through the rest of the files and actually start building our first component. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll see you in that one.